I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Operation Freedom Briefings. The goal of these briefings in my weekly radio show is to provide you information the bought-off, lamestream, fake media tentacle of the deep state will never deliver. You can follow us on the radio show. It's free and it's live every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. How do you get there? Go to davejanda.com, hit the Listen Live button. It'll take you to Wham Talk 1600 streaming service. Hit the play button. You're with us every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern. Great guests, great analysis. Again, information the bought-off lamestream fake media will not touch. I want to start out with a quote from Robert Kennedy. Quote, "Every time we turn our heads the other way when we see the law flouted, when we tolerate what we know to be wrong, when we close our eyes and ears to the corrupt because we are too busy or too frightened, when we fail to speak up and speak out, we strike a blow against freedom, decency, and justice." Robert Kennedy. Well, that's where we are today. The word of the day appears to be unity. It's at the time of this recording, Joe Biden, the theme of his installment is supposedly going to be unity. Really? Interesting. Unity. Since November 3rd, when I look at the unity spewed by Biden and Harris and their operatives, I frankly have a hard time finding it. All I hear and all I see is division. You see, if the Biden-Harris operatives were about unity, they would embrace transparency, accountability, data, facts, honesty, about trying to get to the bottom of what happened on November 3rd. I believe everyone wants a united country. We are the United States of America. But at this point, we're not. And the reason we're not is because, and long before November 3rd, but in particular, it's since November 3rd, accountability, transparency, data, evidence, facts have been completely suppressed and vilified. I mean, just look since November 3rd. From Biden and Harris themselves. Serial name calling at those who challenged what happened on November 3rd. I have to choose my words closely and wisely. Otherwise, now that we're on YonTube, and censorship is, well, it's alive and well. Another sign of unity is censorship. Isn't that a wonderful sign of unity? But Biden and Harris and their operatives have denigrated those that have called for transparency, accountability, data, evidence, facts. They've pushed the mantra, as has their tentacles in the deep state, for censorship. I mean, just look at what happened on, January 8th, Friday, January 8th. The President of the United States, the 3-star general, General Flynn, one of the top legal minds in our country, Sidney Powell, and 70,000 other individuals were censored. They were removed, told that on a number of platforms, free speech, addressing transparency and accountability of a process that occurred on November 3rd was not going to be tolerated. Unity. Joe Biden, so it's all about unity. Well, really? What about, as I said, all the degradation spewing from him and Harris and their operatives? About Americans just asking for transparency and accountability. The censorship. Another mark against unity. And then we get to the extra targeting that's going on, targeting on steroids, wanting to remove people's degrees because they are part of the Trump administration or have been asking for transparency and accountability. There's a movement at Harvard to remove every person who was associated with the Trump administration, take their degrees away from them. What? I mean, this is something like out of a bad movie. They're taking the extra steps that these individuals should have their jobs blocked. This targeting has been going on for many years. You know, I'll give you a little personal history here before we go on to the real, what you want to talk about, embracing unity. How about this whole impeachment, the second impeachment goat rodeo? We'll get to that in a second. But, you know, I retired January 1st, 2017. And the reason is because I had already experienced targeting because of my opposition to the issues, the problems that were identified in Obamacare. And I felt that if I continued to practice, and I could have continued to practice, orthopedic surgery, in particular shoulder, dealing with folks that had shoulder pathologic conditions about their shoulder, and sports medicine issues, I could have easily continued. But I felt the targeting was getting to such a level that it would adversely affect my patients, my partners, our practice, and our employees. And I wasn't about to do that. You see, starting January 1st, 2017, through Obamacare, the government got added power. And I had been brought up in a medical environment where you do everything possible to take care of a patient. And in reading through Obamacare and the sequence of when protocols would be kicking in, I felt I would be put in a position where my medical recommendations would be altered because of a government bureaucrat. And then I would be expected to lie to that patient, that I'm doing everything for them when in fact I'm being told to hold back. And I felt that I could not practice in that type of environment. Period. Which is why I retired. So now that brings us back to where we stand today. More targeting. Far less unity. Even though the mantra is unity. Remember, when a politician says black, what's really occurring is white. Look at Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act. What? It was anything but affordable, and it had nothing to do with care. But now, this Biden-Harris crew speaking about unity, well, what about this impeachment process? How is that going to unify the country? You know, Joe Biden could have picked up the phone. Harris could have picked up the phone and said, you know what? No, stop. Pelosi, stop. Schumer, stop. We are taking over, and the last thing we need is this. But they didn't pick up the phone. Maybe Joe's basement doesn't have a phone. I don't know. Harris surely didn't pick up a phone. None of their operatives did. They fanned the flames. So let's look at impeachment. 2.0. A couple things. First of all, Pelosi held up coronavirus relief for millions of Americans for 8 months. And within a day or two of what happened on January 6th, she was pushing articles of impeachment. And within a week, she had the president impeached for the second time. Yet for 8 months, she and her deep state cohorts on both sides of the aisle, remember, one political party, Republicans, owned and operated by a criminal syndicate, the deep state. Okay? They held it up for 8 months to relief for each and every American. But boy, they could push impeachment through in less than a week. And the second issue is, why take the time to impeach President Trump when he had 7 days left in his term? Why? To make a point? That's not showing power. Frankly, I think it's showing panic and desperation that they were worried about something he could do, and they felt that if they impeached him, they would, well, take away his advantage. I mean, that's how it logically adds up. Because it makes no sense. When you have huge issues in our country to be addressed, why would you take the time and the effort? And all the optics of this. Notice, the bought-off lamestream fake media, they're great. They have been for 5 years of, if there's a little clip in a speech or a presentation, they show it over and over and over and over and over again. This impeachment process, the second time, was based on a speech President Trump gave on January 6th. A speech in which he spoke about peacefully protesting, about cheering on those in Congress that were asking for transparency and accountability. And that's inciting insurrection? What? But notice, the bought-off lamestream fake media, they're not showing that speech. Right? And this is the hub of the impeachment process. Well, if it's so onerous, if it's so horrible, why aren't they showing it? How about because it was promoting peaceful protests? And then Nancy Pelosi takes the added step. I mean, there's a lot of folks, whether it's Secretary Pompeo, whether it's Director of National Intelligence Radcliffe, there's been a tremendous amount of emphasis on China and their potential involvement on many aspects, from before November 3rd, on November 3rd, and after November 3rd. So what does Pelosi do? This pig, Eric Swalwell, who was sleeping with a Chinese spy and has admitted to it. I mean, the national security ramifications of that are huge. One of the first things Pelosi did is she made, when she wasn't sitting in the chair, Eric Swalwell for a day or two Speaker pro tem. So he kind of runs the show in the House. That's a slap. But then Pelosi names Eric Swalwell as House impeachment manager. What? A guy who's hanging out with Chinese spies? Sleeping with them? Well, what was her name? Christine Fang, and, good old Swalwell and the Bang Bang thing. I mean, boy, you talk about Fang taking one for her country, having to go to bed with that pig. Pelosi names Eric Swalwell as House impeachment manager. Speaker Nancy Pelosi shocked many in Washington by appointing Eric Swalwell as a House manager of the impeachment of President Trump as he continues to face calls for his removal from the House Intelligence Committee due to his alleged intimate relationship with a Chinese spy. And then, the impeachment process, you talk about a goat rodeo. I mean, you talk about justice and a fair and honest hearing. 2 hours of debates about the rules, 2 hours of impeachment proceedings, boom, impeached. Called a snap impeachment. No evidence, no playing of the speech, even in its entirety, nothing. Impeached. Impeached about speaking, about peacefully protesting, cheering on congressmen who are focused on accountability and transparency. So then the vote happens. House now voted to impeach President Trump for allegedly inciting last week's riot in the Capitol by a margin of 232 to 197. 222 Democrats to 0 voted for impeachment. And from the Republican side, 197 voted against impeachment, 10 voted for. Like who? Oh, Liz Cheney from Wyoming. Oh, there's a real deep state player. All of these deep state players. Jamie Herrera Butler from Washington. John Katko from New York. Adam Kinzinger from Illinois. Fred Upton, deep state player from Michigan. Dan Newhouse from Washington. Peter Meyer. Oh, a DeVos devotee. Remember DeVos from Amway? Where does Amway get a lot of its income? Oh, yeah, China. Oh, okay. Peter Meyer. Yeah, he just got there. Voted for impeachment. First vote. Okay. Anthony Gonzalez, Ohio, Tom Rice from South Carolina, and David Vellado from California. There you go. Impeached. Todd Sarnes said the following. If President Trump had told his reporters to go attack Biden supporters in supermarkets and diners and gas stations, if he had told them to, quote, absolutely harass, end quote, Democrats, I would endorse impeachment. But he didn't say that. Congresswoman, deep state player, Democrat, who voted for impeachment, said that Maxine Waters. Yeah. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. And another guy leading the impeachment charges was Chucky Schumer from the Senate. Remember this back from March 4th, 2020? You probably don't, because the bought-off lamestream fake media did very little coverage of this. Chief Justice, oh, there's another one, deep state player, slammed Schumer for threatening Gorsuch and Kavanaugh over an abortion case. This from Zero Hedge. First, Chuck Schumer threatened President Trump when he said the intelligence community has, quote, 6 ways from Sunday, end quote, of getting back at him. Now it's Supreme Court Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Neil Gorsuch who will, quote, pay the price, end quote, and, quote, won't know what hit you, end quote, if they rule the wrong way on a landmark case. You wonder if these comments from Schumer and the riot that he incited at the Supreme Court in March of 2020 had anything to do why Kavanaugh and Gorsuch took a pass on hearing the election interference case. Interesting. Schumer was speaking at a rally in front of the Supreme Court. And what he did was he incited a riot to the point where the people that were at his event charged the Supreme Court, banging, pounding on the doors, and actually caused some destruction. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute, what happened to Schumer on that? Was he impeached? No. Was he censured? Nope. Was he demonized? Nope. What did he get? He got a pat on the back. Good boy, Chuck. Good boy, Chuck. Go back to the first impeachment. That first impeachment that was occurring essentially distracted people. It happened in January of 2020. Seems to be January has become impeachment month. Isn't that fantastic for the unity of our country? January 2020, when all that was going on, December 2019, January 2020, when all that was going on, COVID was making its way. It was a distraction. The first impeachment proceedings by Pelosi and Schumer and all the rest of them and the deep state and the Republicans that signed on to it, Romney, Murkowski, across the board, it was a distraction. And look at the shiny mirror. The shiny mirror was impeachment. Meanwhile, COVID was coming over. That attacked our shores. The first impeachment was a distraction. And so was the second. This second impeachment wanted to suck the air out of the room so people were no longer speaking about what? What happened on November 3rd. They were not talking about what happened on November 3rd. That is what this was about. And now remember, impeachment occurred. And now we're facing a potential trial in the Senate. And there's a day left till the president leaves office. When they certified, it's interesting how when there's talk about unity. Well, let's go back to January 6th and 7th. On January 6th and 7th, that's when we had the event at the Capitol, but we also had the certification of Joe Biden. Joe Biden certified in the dead of the night on January 7th, I think 3:40 in the morning when it occurred. It occurred at 3:40 in the morning on January 7th. So this is a guy who hid in the basement during his entire political campaign. He spoke about darkness, the dark winter. On November 3rd and November 4th, his big vote totals, the dumps, came in at 4 o'clock in the morning in the dead of the night. He was certified in the dead of the night on January 6th, going into January 7th. And then, Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, sent to Congress a notification. And the notification has now been unclassified. I'll just read a portion of it for you. On the same day, electors were certified. From my unique vantage point as the individual who consumes all of the United States government's most sensitive intelligence on the People's Republic of China, I do not believe the majority view expressed by intelligence community analysts fully and accurately reflects the scope of the Chinese government's efforts to influence the 2020 U.S. federal elections. I want to read to you his final paragraph. I am adding my voice in support of the stated minority view in the intelligence community based on all available sources of intelligence with definitions consistently applied and reached independent of political considerations or undue pressure, that the People's Republic of China sought to influence the 2020 U.S. federal elections in raising the need for the intelligence community to address the underlying issues, with China reporting the outlined above. Wow. There isn't even unity in the intelligence community about providing information that's honest and straightforward and transparent and accurate about what happened before, during, and after November 3rd. There is no unity. And while the president was being impeached for inciting insurrection, let's go back to this summer when our country went through a terrible ordeal. Rioting, looting, destruction, death, millions of people. Lives were ruined. But that was an insurrection? Hard to believe, isn't it? Kamala Harris helped, this from August 31st. Kamala Harris helped bail out 2 murder suspects and twice convicted sex offenders. 3 months ago, Kamala Harris asked her 3.7 million Twitter followers, now 5.4 million, to contribute to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, whose mission is to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota. This fund bailed out violent criminals who were rioting in Minneapolis following the death of George Floyd. In addition, Joe Biden staffers jumped on this as well and supported funds which led to the bailout of these perpetrators of the summer of 2020 destruction. Kamala Harris wasn't censured, wasn't chastised, got a pat on the back, and she also voted for unity, or voted for unity being impeachment. My goodness. They speak about unity, that it's all about unity. No, it's all about control, and it's all about power. On Monday, it was Martin Luther King Day. I want to give you a couple Martin Luther King quotes that I've presented on my radio show numerous times over the years. But they have stood the test of time. Martin Luther King: non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. We will not obey unjust laws or submit to unjust practices. We will do this peacefully, openly, cheerfully, because our aim is to persuade. We adopt the means of nonviolence because our end is a community at peace with itself. And finally, cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And there comes a time when we must take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular, but one must take it simply because it is right. Unity is right, but that's not what we're getting. We're getting a false facade of unity. Because with unity comes transparency, accountability, honesty, facts, data, evidence. They speak about unity. But it's all about power, control, and coercion. This is an important week for our country. And it's important for every single one of us to embrace not this false unity that's being put out, but true unity. And in so doing, we would then embrace accountability, transparency, honesty, facts, data, evidence, and the truth. I thank you for your time. I thank you for joining me today. I hope you'll become part of our Freedom family at davejanda.com. That is where we have the uncensored, deep dive information and analysis and guess. We can't do it on this platform any longer. We have to be very careful on the radio. We have to be very careful on other platforms. We are very careful at davejanda.com, but we can do the deep dives and provide you information that you're not going to get from the bought-off, lamestream, fake media now or never. I thank you for your time. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.